Alright, so I finally got the 90s mountain bike into a rideable position, and I do have to admit it was a lot more fun to ride than I thought, especially when comparing it to its stock form, which was just kind of stretched out, painful, really rigid. But this is a fun bike. So it seems like I stirred up quite the controversy with my last video talking about 5 reasons why you shouldn't buy a 90s mountain bike. Some other fellow YouTubers actually created response videos. Check out Gary's Bike Project and Old Shovel. I actually haven't watched their videos yet at the time of this filming because I don't want to be influenced by what they say. I think some of you took that video the wrong way. I do actually like 90s mountain bikes, and they were some of the first bikes I ever worked on, so I appreciate them. But like I said in that video, I don't think they're necessarily for everybody. And that was simply the point I was trying to make. There are no categorical imperatives. There's going to be a set of people where a 90s mountain bike is a fantastic option, as well as a set of people that, they probably shouldn't bother. With all the disclaimers aside, these are the 5 reasons why you should buy a 90s mountain bike. The first reason is because 90s mountain bikes are awesome bikes to learn on. I think that is one reason why they're so prevalent with bike co-ops and their Build-A-Bike programs. Everything is fairly transparent. No internal cable routing, nothing potentially toxic or too mysterious like hydraulic disc brake. Everything you need to learn about basic bike mechanics is right there. It's well represented in the 90s mountain bike. When I got into bikes in the early aughts, these are the bikes I learned to work on. I spent a ton of time at Bike Station in Long Beach, bugging mechanics there, learning how to work and fix these style of bikes. Aside from being fairly easy bikes to work on, they're also low risk if you happen to damage something. Stripping out threads on a bike that costs $50 to $100 is a lot less, let's say, painful than stripping out threads on a brand new bike that costs $1,500 or $2,000. Same thing with the parts, as long as you don't go for the super exotic and desirable parts. If you happen to strip out a bolt or something, risk of failure is fairly low. Another reason why you should buy a 90s mountain bike, that's sort of related to the first one, is that because they are easy to learn on, they also make a great platform for bike builds. Once you work around the super slammed and extended stem, you can turn it into a great upright bike commuter, bike tourer, bike packing bike. Really, whatever you could dream up, you can turn a 90s mountain bike into. There are great mods like the Clydesdale fork from Crust, so you could even turn it into a cargo bike. And because of that, you come out with a pretty unique bike that's built for your taste. It's a lot less cookie cutter than just getting a production bike that's stamped out by the thousand. Another reason you should buy a 90s mountain bike, and this I think is a fairly important one, at least to me, is that you can reuse old parts. If you're like me, you cry a little with every electronic group set out there because in 20 years, there's no way those parts are going to still be functioning in a box at a bike co-op. That's kind of my baseline of whether a part is good these days. But if you look at components on a 90s mountain bike, a lot of them can be set up as friction shifters, so you can still run them with modern drivetrains. You can modify the triple into a double or just use a spider and really customize it to your riding needs. Brake levers really haven't changed all that much, so those are definitely reusable. And the brakes themselves, I've actually unironically started to really like cantilever brakes because they've got great stopping power and modulation. All this old tech that is still perfectly usable, serviceable, maybe 20 or 30 years old, but you know that they're still going to be functioning in probably another 20 years. You can't really say that with today's electronic component. Another reason you should get a 90s mountain bike is if you have more time than money. Notice I didn't say because they are cheaper than modern bikes. People tend to undervalue their time or the time needed to get a 90s mountain bike nice and operational and suited to your needs. If you factor in the cost of your time, even at like a minimum rate wage, you're going to find that it might balance out to a modern bike. But I totally get it. I was there many years ago, had no money for bike parts or a new bike, but I had lots of time. I had the time to rummage through parts bins, wait for an amazing deal on Craigslist, buy something on eBay. I had the time to troubleshoot and noodle with the bike, getting stuck components off. So if that's where you are, where you don't have the money but have lots of time to go on sometimes a wild goose chase it is to get a 90s mountain bike operational, then 90s mountain bike clearly for you. And the last reason is you want a bike project. You want something to occupy your time. The sheer act of working on a bike brings you pleasure. Maybe you enjoy the act of stripping the bike down to its bare frame and then building it back up. Or you enjoy the wild goose chase of tracking down period correct parts. Regardless, if you love the process as much as riding the bike itself, then a 90s mountain bike is for you, because I do view them more as projects you buy into, kind of adult Legos or an adult bike kit, which you have to modify and tweak, rather than necessarily a complete bike in of itself. So that's it for this video. What do you guys think of my list of reasons to buy a 90s mountain bike? Is there one that I missed out? I'm going to go watch Old Shovel and Gary's Bike Project's reasons right after I'm done shooting this. If you like this content, consider buying a sticker, patch, or pin. As always, everybody, keep the supple side down.